Hi, and welcome back to Midnight to Morning. This is a video series which focuses on the next 2,000 years in the life of the Bride of Christ. The first millennium begins at midnight in age-to-age timekeeping, which is happening now. In this video, I will reframe ideas about the Satan to help open the shaft of the abyss, that sacred passageway between mind and heart. Let's begin the reframe by looking at three spiritual governments as recorded in the text of Genesis 1. The first government is God's voice in creation, revealed as divine light on the first day of creation, the let there be light, followed by the sky, or divine breath on the second day. It was this spiritual government that oversaw the Exodus, the pillar of fire by night and the cloud by day. Now, by the fourth day of creation, God's one voice created a second spiritual government by giving authority to the two great lights that rule the day and night and establish season, days, and years. By the sixth day of creation, God's one voice established a caretaking plan by creating a third spiritual government that gave authority and freedom to humankind clothed in God's eternal image and likeness. Notice that the government of temporality and the caretaking government are independent of and separate from one another. Notice also that God's one voice oversees these two governments during time before measured time. Now let's consider the story of Genesis 3. This is the Sabbath day, or the seventh day of creation, often called the purple day for reasons we'll get into in the future. About 15,000 years ago, humanity entered the Sabbath day as hunters and gatherers, spiritually clothed by eternal light, the likeness and image of God. By the conceptual hour of noon, humans had begun to form the earliest agrarian communities. The first seeds planted in the ground also planted a desire for timekeeping knowledge. Now, by sundown on the Sabbath, the lesser voice of temporality, aka the serpent, had successfully convinced humankind to eat from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. By midnight on the Sabbath day, the lesser temporal voice overthrew God's one eternal voice, which also overthrew the government of time before measured time, replacing it with a beastly government of measured time. By the end of the Sabbath day, our species had become tribal forming, territorial claiming, pre-dynastic mini-gods who had begun to listen to a lying, deceiving, manipulating, accusing voice that perverts human desire, twists human eyesight, and pits people against people, tribe against tribe. So Genesis 3 is a story that reveals the overthrow of God's one eternal voice of authority. The overthrow violated the separation between the two independent governments that had governed life on earth for millions of years during time before measured time. It was a Sabbath day coup from which our species has yet to fully recover. Now let's agree that the knowledge of timekeeping is good. It offers humanity a structuring principle by which life on earth can be ordered and organized. But timekeeping is also evil because it introduces a lesser spiritual voice, the dragon, that ancient serpent who is the devil and Satan, into human consciousness, which traps the human spirit in an unhealthy state of spiritual bondage to timekeeping images and to the dragon's beastly government that invisibly rules the human mind from behind these timekeeping images. Now, the desire for timekeeping awareness created a tear in humanity's eternal clothing, allowing the lesser voice of temporality to gain a foothold within the human mind and open humanity's eyes to godlike ideas of power and control. But stripping God's eternal image and likeness from the human mind and heart caused a loss of eternal clothing, a nakedness that couldn't be covered up. So the overthrow of God's one eternal voice damaged humanity's relationship with the spiritual gifts of dominion and freedom, dominating and controlling life in the garden became the norm by powering over instead of caring for the creation. So the Sabbath day ended with darkened understandings of angry gods, unwarranted feelings of shame, and false notions of a cold alienation from eternal light, all because our species started listening to and believing a lesser voice of deception. Now, by sundown on the 8th day of creation, Jesus entered our temporal darkness to rip the mask off of Satan's face, expose the spiritual damage done by the lesser voice, nullify humanity's feelings of shame, and erase all notions of separation. Now, the truth exposed by Jesus is that the overthrow of God's one eternal voice happens at the subconscious level of our spiritual evolution. So when the lesser voice whispers in the ears of listeners, "Crucify, crucify," Jesus whispers, "Forgive them, for they do not know what they are doing." So here we are. It's midnight, and a spiritual overthrow of the lesser voice must occur during the final 2,000 years on the 8th day of creation. We have a shaft to open. We have weeds to collect and burn. We have a beastly government to overthrow, a dragon to chain, and a voice to bind. Next up, reframing the concept of sin. See you then.